Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good people. Brother Juice here, and we are with the Business Builder Podcast. And today in the studio, I am pleasantly surprised. I'm glad you're here, man. Rico Dinolfi from Peak Business Advisors, and what's the other one?
Beyond Agents.
Beyond Agents AI, which we'll get into that later. If you're not on the AI train, you're gonna be left behind. Absolutely. And so we were just having a conversation about some of that stuff, which we'll get into later. We're gonna discuss Peak Business Advisors first. But Rico, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
I really do appreciate it. It's funny that we, saw you at the 1 Million Cups. So look, if you're in the Wilmington area specifically, because again, we talked about this.
Yep.
Coming from, because you, UK, worked a lot in the Middle East,
yep.
right? So you're used to, and you're talking about big organizations, right?
Yep, done both.
And so, but dealing relationships in those worlds and kind of networking in those worlds is a different animal from what it is here.
It is.
And I was so glad I met you because I was like, oh yeah, I know how to help you with that. But there again, and then Luis invited you to the group, and it's like, hey, there he is. So, but that's how you do it here, right?
Yeah.
I think part of the new paradigm is collaboration, not competition. And certainly something that Tim Ferriss said a long time ago that it hit me, and I was like, I don't have that. I need to develop it. Is your network is your net worth.
100%.
And actually the group I was in, when I got shut down, excuse me, when COVID shut me down, I went from working 6 days a week to 7 days a week.
Yep.
And I worked 7 days a week all through COVID. And I'm still working 7 days a week. So
I think most of us are now.
I wanted to get to a point where I could step back a little bit, and nope. It's like I just kept working. But anyway, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, and hopefully we can all get there. But Peak Business Advisors, give us a the rundown on that. What is that? What do you do for your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So Peak Business Advisors offers 3 core services. One of them is business management consultancy. So basically, as a consultant, you align yourself with clients, go in, have a look at their business, look at potential bottlenecks that they have, look at what is and isn't working, and look at potentially why they're not scaling. So really help them clear a strategy, clear the bottlenecks, and then look for ways to help them grow.
Actually, and to that point, just so you guys know that he practices what he preaches, like these are the notes that he just spent 5 minutes talking to me about on both of my businesses really. And so he came in and just started asking questions immediately. So I can attest to the expertise already.
Yeah, no, and you know I think you were saying it when I first came in before. We find ourselves in business where, especially small business owners, I'm one of them myself, you wear all the hats, don't you? You wear the finance hat, the sales hat, the marketing hat, the HR hat if you've got a few people, but the reality is there comes a point when you have to learn at what point those hats need to be taken off and given to the right people. Why? Because otherwise you are the bottleneck in the business. And I say that to myself as well as I say it to other people as well. And that works in small businesses, medium and large. It's across the board. Some people at leadership in big companies, they are the bottleneck. They're the people that say, no, I don't want to do that, when the team is around them going, you should do that because it's been verified that it's going to work. So I hope that makes sense from a consultancy perspective. Then the other 2 services is fractional CEO and COO, and interim CEO and COO. Those differ. So the fractional is where you come in as a C-suite or a senior exec, and this is for small businesses as well. And fractional is you spend a limited amount of hours or days a week with that company, with the owners or whoever it is that's appointed you. Where interim CEO or COO is where you actually go into the company and it's your full-time gig that you're doing day in and day out for the period that's been agreed.
Right.
And all of those 3 have a need in the business world where we are today, because we're in that rat race, aren't we? Where we're always running around as business owners and we don't actually take a step back for a minute and actually say, well, where am I in business? Have I reached 100,000 or 1 million? And if I have, how long have I been there? Have I been stuck there for 2 or 3 years? And if I have been stuck there, why? These are the questions that you should be asking yourself as a business owner.
Yeah.
Or a leader.
Yeah, yeah, and that was one of my questions too. Is like, as a small business owner, are people who, with a, if they're a solo operator or if they're like that, I think, they might not know. Well, one, they don't know that this exists. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it existed.
Yep.
And if it did exist when I was at my lowest and needed the most help, and it was something I could have paid for, I would have definitely done it. Yeah. So there's that. I think there's more of this out now than there ever has been before.
There is. No, you're absolutely right. And the thing is, when you start bouncing around big titles and everything else, people think it's going to be expensive. But the reality is it's not that. Me personally, I work with, I try and work with as many businesses as possible, but of all shapes and sizes from whatever industry. Why? Because I work within people's budgets. Mm-hmm. And that's what's really important. It's not that I come to you and say, yeah, this is going to cost you 10, 15, 20, 30, 40,000. It's going to cost you what it is that you can afford based on the time that I can give you. And that's how it's worked out at that point there. What I do see in the US, and what I have noticed in the US over the last 4 years, what's big here is coaching. And in Europe, in the Middle East, and also in Asia, I've done some work. That's not really bounced around as much. I know it's more of a newer thing now. The last 2 or 3 years, coaching has come into play. But I also know there's a lot of business people here that think that there's a guru and it's okay to pay 30, 40, 50K for 12 or 20 weeks to then come away with, having to do it yourself again.
Yeah. And that's, how does it differ then from the Middle East and Asia and in Europe in general? Like the coaching aspect as compared to what they would do in those countries?
Yeah, I mean, those countries now are offering, that type of aspect because people are always picking up what happens in America. Mm-hmm. But for me, coaching is a different scenario to a consultant or to an interim or a fractional role. A coach is, I'm going to tell you what I think you need to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to do. And then at that point, you're going to go and do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and motivate you to do it.
Right.
That's very different to what Peak offers, because whether it's a consultant, a fractional, or an interim, I'm going to help you do it along the way. I'm going to help you implement it, and just like a coach would, I'm also going to hold you accountable.
Yeah, but you got skin in the game, I think. Whereas a coach doesn't have skin in the game, especially if you've already paid him.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because I've had mentors, and I learned a lot from them. But the thing is, you pay them, and then whether you get anything out of it or not, it's too bad. You already paid them.
Yeah, that's the situation that you're in. Absolutely, and I find that quite sad, because there's a lot of business people who are phenomenal at what they do. But that doesn't mean to say that they know everything, just like we don't know everything.
Right.
So even if they do know it, sometimes having someone to guide them or bounce it off them really helps.
Right. So that's okay. So there's fractional, there's interim,
consultancy.
Consultancy. Yep. All right. Is there anything else that you want to go down the rabbit hole about certain aspects of peak business?
No, I mean, just even the point that we just discussed now for your own business is, mm-hmm. Sometimes we forget that we've started a business for a reason. Why? Yes, of course we want to make money, but we've started a business because we believe that we can offer, or we have a skill set to offer something that's potentially out there, but you could do it better. And we lose track of what that means to any potential client.
Right.
So making sure that you've got a good offering, which is something that we spoke about very briefly, what that offering looks like, then making sure that you've got a good client journey. That's fundamental, because a seamless client journey where the less pain the client feels, the more they're going to want to work with you. So super important. I know we're covering it very quickly, but that is important. And then from there, how do you manage that relationship? So, do you use CRM systems? Do you use, what marketing tools do you use? What salespeople do you have, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those things need to come together to be able to, to make sure you've got that clear offering that people then come to you and that you can scale without having and causing pain to yourself and anyone else.
Right. So take it from let's use me as an example, as just a solo operator. I'm basically only offering the one thing.
Yep.
How would what would scaling that look like? Obviously, I want to grow from, let's say, $0 to 10,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
So what's the process for that look like?
So what's really cool now, especially, and I know we're going to touch on AI after, but with the tools and the systems that we have in place now, I would love to create the first $100 million company with less than 10 employees.
Well, it's coming though. I heard somebody say that the first, I forgot who it was, but somebody was saying that the first billionaire, like individual billionaire with no team, is possible now due to all these AI stuff. Like agents or all the tools that you have.
Yeah.
It's doable now where it was never doable before.
No, it wasn't, because you would need people to
need
help
the team.
with tasks. Exactly. Yeah. Now you can create, computerized teams to help you. And I'm not saying that you have to do all of that, but in relation to your question, having a clear strategy of how you're going to go from 0 to even 1,000 and then 1,000 to 5 and 5 to 10 is going to be fundamental to getting to those steps, because you can't go from 0 to 10. You can, but it's quite painful.
But
in answer to your question, that strategy needs to have those areas that we spoke about before, but more importantly, what systems, processes, and automations are you going to have? We touched on it a minute ago with your own business when you said, well, I want people to jump on a call with me when they understand what I'm offering them, and they're probably 80% to 90% there in knowing that they actually want that type of service. Now, whether it's you or not, that needs to be confirmed at the call point.
Right.
But what you do want is you want that automated process of someone's seen an ad, someone comes into your funnel, someone submits their information based on the criteria that you've set, because you want to set the parameters as to the type of profile of person that you want into your, into booking a call, and then giving them access to your calendar if they are, or they fit within that profile, and then they have the ability to jump on a call. When you jump on a call with them, what you want to do is make sure that your offering's clear. You've given them clear direction as to what the path is to working with you, and what the cost is. Because remember, there's always 4 steps. People only buy for 2 reasons. They've either got a problem or a desire. Yeah, a problem, we're talking about a problem to resolve something that they don't either have the time or ability to do.
Right.
Or they have a desire, I like that car, I like that house, I like those clothes, I want to buy them. So that's the only
I want that jacket.
That's the only 2 reasons people buy. But in all seriousness, so the 4 of the points are, you're going to resolve a problem for them. You're going to explain what your solution is, which is one of your 3 offerings. You're then going to tell them what the cost is. Yeah, and then you're going to tell them how that works. As in, how is this going to work for you? How do I roll this out for you? So you're going to do X, Y, and Z for them, and then you're going to give them X information, and then that gives them what they're paying for. So those are the 4 main points that you should always remember going through a scenario.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think honest marketers or honest salespeople if you ask them, they'll tell you just those things, right? I think a lot of people don't do that.
They don't. No.
And they put just what you told me, just the 4 things. They put that behind a paywall, right? But if you use ChatGPT and go, hey, what is marketing 101? You're going to get some kind of answer. A lot of that stuff you can get for free, but again, it's how the buyer must be where you're going to have to go and find it. Or if you as the marketer or me as the problem solver or the business owner, again, if we put it out there and I solve your problem just from you looking at my page or my offer, then you doing business with me, it just got, the percentage just went way up.
Went up,
right?
Absolutely.
Because I just basically told you how I'm going to do. I think part of my sticking point was I didn't think that last one was important. Like what I'm finding is that a lot of people want to know.
That's the journey.
How is this going to help me afterwards? I'm like, and I was thinking, well, look, if you want water and I'm selling and I have water, problem solved. It's like, no, that's not all of it. They want more.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the things that, and again, like I said, some of this is new to me. So that last portion of it, that's why I was on the calls. I'm like, and I'm explaining all this stuff, and I'm like, why am I doing this? It's because they still have questions that anything that I put out before that they saw, it didn't answer their question, and that's why I'm having to explain it to them.
So when you're having those calls, there's one of two challenges at that point. So whether it's your offering is unclear to them, or whether it's their journey with you that's unclear to them. If you can clear those elements up, and as I said, on those 4 points, that's it. It's either a yes or a no.
Yeah.
And if it's a no, it's maybe because they don't have the funds, or they don't align with you as a business,
Right.
or they're just not ready.
Yeah.
Because that happens as well.
And no is fine. I want an answer, yes or no. What I don't want is to not have that.
Yeah.
You know, because if it's a no, it's like, fine, call me back when you do.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and don't worry, you're in the CRM. I'm going to call. You're going to, you know, you'll get an email or something later on if I have another offer.
One of the other challenges, Justin, is that we've become as a society. I mean, for me, I love helping people, and yes, of course, we all want to make money, and we need money, and whatever else. But the reality is, I do. You know, I feel that I have a certain skill set that I've been blessed with because of where I've worked and what I've done, some of the people that I've worked with, you know, throughout my career. But I love sharing knowledge when possible.
Right.
And unfortunately, as a society, we've become the opposite to that. Well, why should I tell someone something when I could actually charge for that? That's, you know.
It kind of runs counter. I find the guy I was talking about before, he's a video marketer, right? He's absolutely a genius at this. And I told him, he sat in your chair, and I said, the thing that I like about you is that you give away the game for free. And I put that clip on Instagram, and it's got several hundred views, right? And because people see him, and he's telling them all the stuff. He's like, look, you can copy and paste what I do. He's like, it's not going to bother me. He goes, because I know if you don't have the other, he's like, that's only one fourth of the strategy that are using. It's like, you can use the words, but unless you're doing the other stuff behind the scenes, you're still not going to have the same kind of outcome or success with it. But he's like, but I'll tell you what it is. And I'm like, that's why I like you. That's why I trust you.
And always share as much information as possible, because the reality, someone said to me once, well, you're giving all the trade secrets away. I don't think they're trade secrets. Personally, just because I'm telling you what you can and can't do or how to use these, doesn't mean that you're me and that you're going to do it like me.
Right.
Everyone has a different way of doing things. But personally, I think we should become more of society where we share our experiences, not only because we're going to help people improve their lives, but I think in general we help everyone improve their lives.
Yeah, and it's that spirit of collaboration over competition. You know, like I said before, I think the era of conquering and competing and like taking out your rivals, that is, I don't think that's the paradigm to do business anymore.
No,
you know,
definitely.
Certainly not on the global. Like, you can't do that globally. You have to, like, if you're a global multi-corp, man, you have to collaborate. Especially, I mean, even if you're a solo operator, but you have to communicate with people outside the country that you live in. You still have to have a global team. You know, you're going to have to collaborate. I mean, I don't see in today's world, you can't be an island anymore, you know, because if I do shirts, right, well, guess what? That's probably coming from China. If I get it printed, it's printed somewhere else. You know, there's going to have to be some type of collaboration with people outside of my state and likely outside the country. So I just don't see how it can happen. Well, I do appreciate it, and I think, but again, that's why I wanted to talk to you and have you on, because a lot of what you're saying, I mean, there are some people out there that are doing it, and certainly, like, my feed is filtered, right? Like, so my feed is all that stuff, because that's what I want to hear. But just like you said before, a lot of people will take that and like, yeah, I'm going to put this behind a paywall. It's like, the second you do that and you take those, you know, you're not going to explain to me those 4 things. If you can't explain to me that, then why should I do business with you? Why should I pay for somebody else to just explain that to me when you just told me that and told everybody else that for free? You know?
No, absolutely. Listen, in life, as you know, we're similar ages. Life's, unfortunately, there's ups and downs. And resilience, I think, is something that you learn as you get older, and that's in life and in business. And for me, you know, I've had a one-man business, and I've had a 500 people business. And what does that mean? It means that it teaches you a path, not a path of success. It teaches you a path of pain, but more importantly of resilience.
Yeah.
And these ups and downs that we all go through, and I don't care who's who and what they say and what they show, because a lot of things are out there that are for show. We all go through that pain. And the easier that you can make that pain, or the more you can reduce that pain for someone as a human being, why wouldn't you do it?
Right.
Why? And if you don't, you're a jerk. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As far as
I agree.
So for me, people say to me, well, you've done all of this and you're 23, 24 years in business, claim to fame, and I think I've said it in a podcast a few times now, is I've saved over 2,500 jobs. To me, that means a lot. Why? Because those people have families behind them. Those people rely on their families to do their part, and their family relies on them to do their part. So that's important to me.
Yeah.
Giving back.
Well, it just, that speaks to your core value as a person, and that's, I think, like, that kind of mindset and that kind of just value from your core, I think it comes out in what you do. It comes out in how you address people. It comes out in how you run, how you present your businesses, how you run them. And certainly, me and you are in a certain kind of mindset with certain, I'm sure that we probably watch the same people on YouTube and whatnot. And so, when you put yourself in that arena, then you find yourself kind of surrounded by that same kind of thing. And it's a great place to be. Mm-hmm. Because if you've ever been on the other side of that, where you're just a solo dude and you're just out there scraping along and you don't feel like you've got any help and this and that and whatever, and everybody's your enemy, man, what a crap place to be in, and you can't win. That's a no-win situation. That's like the Kobayashi Maru, man. There's like no-win situation there, right? Because you just lose. You're going to lose time. You're going to lose money. You might lose your freaking mind,
Hair.
It's like
I've lost plenty of hair. Believe me,
right.
islands growing on the top of my head.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. It's like I've seen those other podcast appearances where you have the shaved head. It's like you're one of these few individuals, man. You look good both ways. You look good with hair. You look good without hair. So it's like not everybody can pull that off, right?
No, well, sometimes I've got like a shirt or a tie on and everything else, but the reality is I'm full of tats.
Yeah.
See, I'm normal. I'm just a human being like everyone else. I'm a dad of 5. And
that's right. Yeah, because you had to
just keep myself as busy as I can between family and work.
Yeah, and look, man. That's all we can do as men, right? We do the best we can and make the most of everything we got. So moving on to the AI stuff now, beyond agents AI, and this is. I was like, when you talked about AI at that meeting, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so much fun. I hope he comes on the podcast because I want to dig deep into this. Now, you started this with your son, you said.
We did, yeah. So we sort of kicked off towards the back end of last year, about October time. I've been in the AI space, sort of playing around with AI for about 18 months now. Just sort of digging deep from a business sense. What does it mean? How can it be used? How can it help me in our personal lives as well? That sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the more I got involved, the more intrigued I was. I'm not an engineer of any kind. I'm not a specialist. I'm just a business person that says, okay, there's tools here. How do we utilize them? So we got our heads together, me and my son, and we formed a company called Beyond Agents AI. Beyond Agents AI offers 3 core services, and the reason why, again, we spoke about offerings before.
Right.
We looked at, if you look at business, what's the fundamentals in business? Well, number one is processes. If you take something, whether it be a product or a service, it has to go from point A to point Z, and how does it get there? The second one is communication. Right. How do businesses interact with clients, etc., etc. And that's the core basis of our products. That's all the services that we offer. So we offer 3 core services. Number one, we build AI voice agents, of which I'll let you hear because they're outstanding. And we train them for about 3 to 4 weeks. And they're built specifically per client, per company.
That's a lot of training.
We don't do one and then repeat it.
Right.
And the reason why, because we we know that each each company is different. So everyone has a different script or a different way that they want the agent to sound, etc., etc. So AI voice agents, and that's inbound and outbound. So you can use them for, for customer services, to book appointments, to do whatever it is that you want. And you can have a full-scale conversation. And we're really getting into the nitty-gritty here because we've just started building some for different clients in different sectors, and some of them are really good fun as well.
How large of an enterprise are you talking about? Are we talking about like big ones where there's multiple departments and stuff like that?
No, that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is it can be for a small business. So we're just testing one out for a garage at the moment. It's a repair shop where they get calls in.
Yeah.
And what you really need to understand is what's the objective of the AI voice agent. And
right.
This garage wants the objective to be that they get the client to come in with the vehicle. Because if the client
it's hard to say no when you're there.
I've got a problem with my car. The technician checks it out and they says, well, this is what you need to do with it.
Right.
So what happens is the AI agent answers the phone. They asks the client what the problem is. It knows how to have a full-scale conversation. What it's not allowed to do is give pricing out, but its sole objective is, when do you want to bring the vehicle in? And the client will say, well, I'm not available till maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. The agent will say, not a problem. Do you want me to schedule a call in now? And it can book it into a calendar.
That's
so
awesome.
It can actually book it into a calendar.
Now, is that a proprietary AI that you guys are using, or are you using like something like from the Google or Perplexity or one of those other existing?
Yeah. So what happens in AI? There's you've got to remember there's lots of tools out there now.
Right.
So don't ever go out, for anyone that wants to start an AI agency, don't go out and try and create your own tools, because that's just insanity.
Yeah.
There's platforms out there that allow you to build these these solutions for clients. But it's how you work with those solutions, what you create around them, and how you train them that's going to be make the difference for you.
Right.
So that's the AI voice agents. Then there's the AI chatbots, which really aligns itself to e-commerce businesses. And client goes on, where's my order? This is my order number. It knows how to interact because it logs into your system, or it's plugged into your system. Sorry. So that's the chatbots, which is pretty straightforward. I mean, you could have one on your website if anyone has any questions, and you can have it act as though it's you. It can answer you train it, and you train it everything based on everything that your business does.
Can it copy your voice too?
Not really, not yet. Well, you can.
Well,
from a chatbot you can't. From an AI voice agent you can.
Sure.
But it doesn't sound right yet.
But you know what though? Forget all that. I want for mine. I want a female Aussie.
You can do that.
Right? If I
definitely,
can do that.
Yeah, you can do that. You can definitely do that. And then the third service is business automations.
Yeah.
AI using automations. And AI automations is where we go in and, like yourself, you have a business where you've got a client with a client journey, where you have processes in place. What you can start doing now is you can start automating some of those processes with AI. So that's what we class as AI automation. I mean, it gets a lot more in depth than that, but that's the very, very basics of it. And what you've probably seen online recently is a lot of younger entrepreneurs coming out, building out these diagrams of automations. And to be honest with you, it's phenomenal to see that, and it's phenomenal to see these young guys doing that. The problem is when you're talking to a business owner or a business leader, that means nothing to them.
Yeah, they won't understand it.
No, they look at it and they sort of freeze. Because I've spoken to a lot of business owners that go, Rico, that looks awesome, but the reality is it means nothing to me and my company. So you really need to dumb it down for them and actually start breaking it down and say, show me your processes. And then at that point, you can start pinpointing where you can introduce AI.
Yeah. I think at that point, it's like you need to be with them and just whiteboard it for them.
Yeah.
Because I was watching, and you probably have seen it too. I forget this. It's a young kid. I forget the name of the thing. He has an AI agency where he does that, but he's created all these templates because he just likes to do it.
Yeah.
The kid's like, I don't know. It's like he's an Uber millionaire, right? Just from that alone. And I was like, good grief, this kid's like barely 24, you know? But he was going, and he's flying through this process. And I'm looking at it going, oh yeah, I can see, because I'm like, I'm doing all those processes right now.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do it, right? And so I want to outsource all of that stuff. So for me, this is like super interesting, because you're talking hours of work where I'm having to write the email back. I'm having to, I have to respond to it. It hits my inbox, right? and I don't have an autoresponder, and I don't have this, and I don't have an AI voice agent that can answer the phone for me. I know I couldn't tell you. I must have missed thousands of dollars for not being able to pick up the phone or respond to an email because I didn't see it because everybody's email box is full, right?
Yeah.
So, yours comes in and it gets buried by the 100 that come in after it, right? And then somebody will call or they'll leave a message and like, oh, I emailed 2 weeks ago, and I was like, oops, sorry about that. And it's me doing this. I'm like, it would be foolish of me to not implement this in order to, because that's missed money.
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of people think that this is extremely expensive. Of course, there's a cost associated to it, and of course, it's expensive to a degree. But the reality is, you don't have to roll everything out at once. What you need to do as a business is look at, well, where's my bottlenecks and what's my priorities? And it doesn't matter whether you're a one-man show or a large organization. If you know where your priorities are, then you start focusing on those areas there and implementing it gradually and then scale, rather than throwing the sort of kitchen sink at it.
Right. Yeah, unless you know where your bottlenecks are, it won't work anyway. You'll just create more problems for yourself. How does your company address ethical concerns such as potential for deep fakes and misinformation? What do you think, man? Do you think that's going to be a huge thing? Or you think it's going to be something that might be not a thing that's a big deal right now?
I think there's going to be more legislation that comes into force around it. But again, that needs to be, the legislators need to be cautious around that as well, because too much red tape could slow the process of the growth down. I mean, we're talking about systems that are life-changing. And when I mean life-changing, I'm talking about, put it this way, I had a conversation in relation to the healthcare industry with AI. And at the moment there's a lot of organizations in the healthcare space that have to reach out to people that maybe have dementia or diabetes or whatever else, but unfortunately we can't get to these people because we just don't have the manpower. Now AI can do that for us. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that AI needs to have a full-scale conversation, but it can check in to make sure that that patient's okay. It can check in to make sure that that patient done its test or took its medicine or whatever else it needs to happen. And it's connected to a system that if the answer is no, a live nurse picks it up immediately and notifies someone.
Right.
So now what we've created...
It's resource management.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So used in the right areas, I think it's phenomenal. Yes, there is the whole thing of, you can create fake information, fake videos and whatever else. But again, I think it's like many things we have in life. It's about being ethical as a human being. And if you know right from wrong, which I would hope most people do, and
we pray.
There's a lot that aren't like that, but for the good humans that are out there, I would say that they know where the boundaries are and not to take advantage of those boundaries.
Right. Well, and it's just like anything else. I mean, every tool can be used for good or ill. Like you can use a shovel to plant a tree, or you could use a shovel to whack somebody over the noggin with. I mean, so it's the intent behind it. But yeah, some of these questions are just they're too nebulous.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But just to close that off, there's more good than bad that could be done.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think so too.
Have to take into account.
So what about privacy concerns as far as all of this stuff is concerned?
Yeah.
Like how would Beyond Agents guarantee that?
Yeah, so a lot of what we're working with now is, we build an agent specifically for a client, and then we put that agent on their systems. So their information stays on their system. We will never see their information. That has nothing to do with us as a business. So from a privacy perspective, it's not, we don't touch anyone's data.
Oh, you're just doing processes.
Yeah, we just look at the process, improve that process, but everything remains within the client's environment.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think that would, because somebody's going to, especially if you've been breached before, right? Yeah. If you've been breached before and you carry financial information, it's going to come up, because if you haven't been breached, it's coming. Yeah, like you're going to get it.
Yeah.
What pitfalls have you guys come across with implementing any of these agents or any of the processes? And how, like, what's the biggest kind of stumbling block you ran into, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think there's two elements to that question. The first one, as a stumbling block, is trying to attach this type of technology to an old system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, there's a lot of new systems, but there's also a lot of old systems. And when we mean by an old system, a system that doesn't have an open backend, like an API or some form of webhook, because you need that to allow this technology to attach itself to your systems.
And you're talking about government institutions and medical stuff there.
Absolutely. I mean,
they're the slowest ones to move.
Yeah, and you'll be you'll find that there's a lot of industry. The finance, the insurance, all of these industries have some level of old systems. But all of that said, they are moving forward quite rapidly now because they want to catch up with this level of technology that we're using, which is coming into.
Because they're seeing, I guarantee you a lot of these people are looking at workforce going, oh, we can. Yeah. And look, that's just going to happen, man. Like, if your job can be outsourced by AI, then learn how to work with AI.
Absolutely.
Because that is coming. I mean, I do video content creation. You can do that with AI now. You know what the AI can't do yet? Not yet. And I hope it doesn't catch up any soon, because I'll be out of a job then. Is this right here, right? Like, no, there's no substitute for human interaction. Yeah. And that's why I still want to have the call, right? Because people do want to call. I found that on my gym business, and I love everybody. Don't hate me for this, but what I have found is that if I get on a phone call with somebody, like, I have to talk to you. They just will not make a decision unless they get on a call. That's fine, okay. But for the gym anyway, it's a 99% chance that if I get on a phone call with you, you do not show up. It's like you're the garage or you're a mechanic, right? It's like, no, bring the car here, because otherwise I don't know if you're going to come in or not, right? So I just took myself out of that whole process. And it's like, if you really want to talk to me, you got to walk through that door,
It's crazy.
Because then it's an 85% chance that you'll can. Yeah. Because again, your interest level has proven that you are willing to just show up, right? And I operate the gym on the philosophy of only the willing, right? I'm not chasing you down. There's way too many things to do in this town.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You've got to be willing. Absolutely.
And so if you're not even willing to come into in the door, then you're not willing to go in anybody's door. It's like, stay at home.
Yeah. True.
Get on the Wii and do that.
But in answer to the second point is really around lack of education at the moment, or understanding of what AI can actually offer people. And that's not because people are ignorant, but it's because people have their own day-to-day stuff to do. Yeah. And we don't have the time to sit there and learn every single thing. So how do we overcome both of those two scenarios? Well, number one, if your system is an old system, the reality is there's probably a likelihood we can't connect unless there's a way around that, which is updating where what you're using is the first one. And then the second one, we do genuinely try and educate as many people as possible. When I speak to people and I say, do you use AI? And they go, yeah, I use ChatGPT. It's not just about using ChatGPT. It's about making sure that you can try and integrate some of the tools that AI has to offer into your personal life and then into your business life, if possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's doable. I mean, it could be as easy as using Google Calendar to send you an SMS text whenever you have an appointment.
Something going.
Right, and so I missed an appointment this week. And I'm like, you know what? I can't do that again. I just can't. So I got in there and lit that up this morning. I was like, all right, I want that. I want that to hit. So, because some things I'm like, this is something I do every week. I don't need to be reminded of that. But some of these other ones I do need to be reminded of, because if my mind gets on something else or I get overloaded, it would be great to have that. I would love to, I want my AI agent to text me, whenever something's going on, and say, hey, 30 minutes,
you
or get a call from my Aussie. It's just like,
you can do all of that. That's not a problem. You can do all of that.
So what do you think? What do you see going in the future, like 3-5 years from now? How do you think these things may change or evolve?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think there's a real evolution that's going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years. And the next 10 years, this is just my personal perspective, and I've seen a few of the sort of AI gurus in the field that are saying the same thing at the moment, where AI is going to be attached to us where it can pretty much preempt what we want from up here. So not what we're thinking, but what we want to do.
Right.
It's going to be one step ahead of us to go, okay, you want to move that piece of paper from there to there because of this.
Yeah, because of
So do it
everything.
now, sort of thing. So it's going to preempt some of the thinking that, and example, I think someone released a video, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he put a video, it was an awesome video. And he created this video where it shows that in the future it could be that you've got glasses on with AI, and all of a sudden you're thinking that you need to book a restaurant, or you say you need to book the restaurant, it comes up and you can see all the restaurants that are in your area, sort of.
Yeah, I saw that same one.
That's where this is going to go. From a business sense, what do I see? I think AI is not here to replace people. AI is here to replace people that don't use AI. That's a fact.
That's you heard it here.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and then in the AI space, we've also seen a lot of AI agencies pop up in the last 12 months. We're one of them.
Right.
But what I do see is that over probably the next 12 to 24 months, some of those agencies are going to consolidate.
Mm-hmm. Because that's what happens. Because everybody
wants to do it, but the reality is, not everyone knows how to scale a business and create a sustainable business.
Yep.
So I do think that consolidation is going to happen as well.
Yeah, I agree too. Because you see that with like once, if it's the Wild West in something, because it was that way with the .com thing, it was that way with this whole, and so what'll happen? So you either build something as a small operation that just works really well, and then you just get bought. Right, or absorbed into something else. I mean, like Google, like once YouTube got to a certain point, Google was like, "We will take you now. Thank you very much." You know what I mean? And it ultimately, I think it worked out for the best. But in the beginning, when that first went on, there was the purists who were like, "No, it has to be its own." It's like, too bad, man. Like, there's the juggernauts are coming, and it's going to get swallowed.
That's it. Yep.
Well, they're going to make you a deal that you can't possibly say no to if you're a living human being. You know, if you've built something and somebody goes, we'll make you an offer of, $700 million.
It's life changing.
It's like, yeah, that's really FU money. Yeah. That's like I don't have to listen to anybody anymore, and I can go anywhere and do anything.
I can go and hide somewhere on an island.
there's a point where I was talking to some of those VCs at the thing, and you've been around these people. There comes a point where there's an amount of money where when you go past that, it's the value of the utility of it drops because you have so many of them. It's like it becomes less valuable because you have so much of it that there's nothing you can't do.
Yep.
And it really does change the way you look at things, I hope to be there one day.
Yeah. Me too.
I just want, you know what though? I just want enough. What about content creation? How do you see? I don't see beyond AI as a content creating kind of thing. So you guys are just going to stay out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've picked our three core services. We'll potentially pivot as this technology keeps moving forward. I think there'll be some exciting stuff that will come into play.
Right.
I don't know if content creation is going to be one of them for us, but I do. You've seen some of the tools that are out there. They're insanely good.
Oh, gosh, dude.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big believer in, and I've spent many years in business where if you're too rigid as a business and you don't give yourself that flexibility to be able to pivot, you're going to be left behind.
Yep.
So always be structured, but be in a format where you can pivot if something comes out that is going to grab people's attention or a market's attention. Yeah,
because content generation is, it's essential to business only in the sense that you just have to have content that's relevant to your business. And a lot of that will be outsourced, but that's going to be its own subgenre, if you will. So what about e-commerce? I know you were talking earlier before about the high level that can do that. Is how would Beyond AI handle like a social commerce, e-commerce kind of space?
Yeah, again, it's not an area that we directly we do obviously get involved indirectly by providing chatbots.
Right.
But again, it's very much dependent and unique to each client's requirements. I know there's companies, AI agencies that specialize in specific fields, but we've tried to leave it as loose as possible to be able to offer based on people's requirements. Again, what I don't want to be doing is creating a product and then going out there and telling people, hey, I've created this product. What I want to do is say, listen, I've got this that can be adapted to what your demands are, to what your requirements are. So always understand what people's needs are and then create something that resolves that, that missing link in their business.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to approach it, especially because for what you guys are doing anyway, because again, the people who are going to be needing this they're all over the place. Yeah. They're going to be all over the place, because again, I'm a solo operator. Not necessarily that I want to be a solo operator. That's just what it is. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at this going, oh, I can take so much stuff off my plate.
See, the thing is, and this is where people need to understand with AI, you're not going in to remove that person. What you're doing is you're going in to make that person more efficient. Mm-hmm. So work smarter, work faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why? Because if you make them work faster and smarter, what happens? You can give them more work.
Right.
You can take on more business.
And on the backside, you free up time and bandwidth in your brain.
Absolutely.
So you can be more creative, to do the thing you do. Again,
that's how you grow your business.
I have 2 video podcasts, right? I don't also want to do all the editing. Mm-hmm. If there's an AI editor that I can kind of tell it how I want it to be done and what I want the finished product to look like, and it can do it in 5 minutes as opposed to my 4 hours, well, that's 4 more hours that I can do other stuff with, right?
Focus on growing your business within that 4 hours.
Or play video games with my son. Are you worried about biases within the AI? I mean, I don't know how that plays a role in what you guys are doing, but it does play a role because, for example, I'm sure you've seen this. One of the YouTube guys I watch, he went to ChatGPT and typed in, tell me a joke about a man, right? And it gave a joke. And it's like, tell me a joke about a woman. And it's like, oh, we can't do that because of X, Y, Z. It's whatever. And he was like, very interesting, isn't it? Obviously, there's a bias, right? How do you see that playing out industry-wide? And then also, how do you think it's going to be? Is it going to affect what you guys do on your end?
Well, I'm hoping it doesn't affect what we do on our end. And to be quite honest with you, there's parameters that you build around when you're building the agents themselves. For example, we built a test agent for a car sales garage, and the guy called in and said that someone had thrown a bomb in his car and bloody blah blah. And the AI agent, because of the parameters that we've set, said, we suggest getting out of the car. Calling 911.
Nice.
Calling the emergency number and bloody blah blah. So it pulls on what a human would, how a sensible human would react.
Right.
But those parameters are there in place. Remember I was telling you we train them for X number of weeks because that's the important stuff. Mm. It's not just about the tone. It's not just about how they sound, but how you want them to behave. With professionalism, with being ethical, understanding, being compassionate, all of these things are super important when you're building this type of, when you're using these type of tools.
I would hope that if you're in danger, the AI would say, yeah, you probably want to leave. Get out of there.
That's exactly what it said.
Get out of the car and go and call 911. How can AI assist brands in managing PR crises on social media platforms? I guess you guys probably aren't going to get involved in that. But from the knowledge that you have about this, what do you think?
I think the biggest challenge is human beings.
Yeah, isn't it always?
It is, yeah. Because if you speak to people at this moment in time and they'll say, no, I want to speak to a human. And you're like, okay, I get that you want to speak to a human. But think about, and I'm a human, think about us humans. We're emotional. If we're having a bad day, it doesn't matter who it is, you're gonna react in a certain way. And at times, because we are so busy now with life, especially with all this technology that we have, mobile phones and computers and everything else, we're extremely busy. So at times we forget things, so we make mistakes. AI will only do what we train it to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say to me, well, I want to speak to a human, okay, you may have to wait a while, number one. You may get someone that's potentially had a bad day and someone that maybe is not thinking about you at this moment in time and may give you unintentionally wrong information.
Right.
Or lead you down a path that maybe is not the right path. AI doesn't do any of that.
Right.
So is it right for everything to use AI for everything? Absolutely not. But I had this conversation with, it was actually on another podcast last year, where they said to me, well, it's just going to replace jobs in like banks, call centers and whatever else. It's like, okay, it's not about replacing jobs. It's about putting human beings in those extremely important roles and letting AI deal with the repetitive,
the low level repetitive
questions,
stuff.
conversations, and I don't know why as human society we can't find that acceptable, because the last 15, 20 years we've had broken systems and bullshit that we've been listening to, like when you phone the bank, you hold for 28 minutes, 29 minutes, listening to music, or press 2 for them to call you back whenever they feel like it. But we find that acceptable. But speaking to an AI agent that's been fully trained to deal with the questions that you're going to ask them, we find that difficult. We need to break that barrier of, let's get past that bullshit, yeah? Let's get past of being used to just relying on human beings, because we are busier than where we've ever been. So let's put humans in the areas where we want them, like the fraud department, or I need an immediate card released, or things that need to happen that emotionally you can understand me. Mm-hmm. Albeit AI can understand emotions now as well, but I want someone that's been in my shoes from a fraud perspective that knows that my card's been stolen, and I need someone that can empathize with me.
That happened to me while I was out of the country, right? I was in Aruba and I went to go use my card, and it was declined, and I was like, I'm like, that's the only money I have, and now I don't have access to it. Like, I am screwed. So of course I get on the phone, and I was able to talk to somebody. I'm like, what's happened here? And they were like, oh, your card got breached. And I was like, I'm out of the country. You know, it was like, I need to be able to use this, right? Because otherwise I'm gonna be stuck. Not to be stuck in a room is a bad thing, but I gotta get home.
Yeah.
And we were able to work it out to where, you know, they said, well, there was some suspicious activity. You know, there was a charge. Mm-hmm. You know, and we blocked the charge. And so I was like, I need this to be able to be operational until I get back. Now, granted, thankfully, I was able to get on the phone pretty quickly, and I was able to get that done. But I got to tell you, if I had been able to solve that issue on an AI phone call, and it was a pleasant Aussie female voice, it still would have been enjoyable.
Yeah, there you go. But remember what we said: work faster, work smarter.
Yeah.
So let's put humans in the areas where we really need them, and where the repetitive tasks, let's get our mindset ready to be speaking to these agents, because they're very, very good at what they do.
Yeah.
And they genuinely are.
Yeah.
I wanted to, I don't know if I've got the number, but I wanted to actually dial one in. So we've trained one, if I can find the details, we trained one for a gym that we're building one at this moment in time. Let me just see if, do you mind if I?
Yeah, because I'm interested, because again, like proof is in the pudding, right?
Let me just see if this is one of them. Just want to make sure I'm calling the right number.
Hello, my name is Alex.
Yeah, it's this one. Okay. So this is one that's currently in testing. So it's not fully trained, but it's currently in testing, but it's on a live number because the client can basically speak to it. But more importantly, it can actually continue training itself the more conversations it has. So it is in training. So if anything goes wrong, I'll apologize in advance.
Right.
But we'll call the number. You can see it's a live telephone number here.
Hello, my name is Alex from Red Rock Autos. How can I assist you today?
Hi, Alex. I was trying to find out if you've still got the Ford Explorer for sale 2018.
Great choice. Let me check our inventory. Yes, we do have the 2018 Ford Explorer available. Would you like to stop by and take it for a test drive? May I have your name and phone number in case we get disconnected?
Yeah, my name is Tony, and the telephone number
Thank you, Tony. When would be a good time for you to come in and test drive the 2018 Ford Explorer? I can check our schedule for you.
Yeah, so tomorrow afternoon would be good for me, around about 3 o'clock.
Got it, Tony. I'll schedule you for tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. to test drive the 2018 Ford Explorer. We're located at 1255 Horizon Boulevard, Fort Worth, Texas, 76110. When you arrive, just ask for me, Alex, and we'll get everything set up for you. Does that work?
It does. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Tony. I'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. If you have any questions or need to reschedule, feel free to call. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you.
So sorry, that was the
Yeah.
I said that, but that was a car garage, a sales place,
Right.
That again is in testing at the moment. But to give you an understanding, tone, professional, ethical, informative, and helpful.
Yeah,
So
and
the objective there is to get the customer in.
right, and it was 120 seconds.
Yeah.
So it's 2 minutes.
Exactly.
And I didn't have to wait. I called and I got right. I didn't have to wait.
Yeah.
Right.
It didn't ring out. It didn't listen to messages and whatever else. So for me, the most important part that we as human beings need to understand is that we need to learn how to speak to these agents. You know, be patient, be professional, treat people the way you want to be treated. I mean, the saying goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know what? Even when I'm using ChatGPT, if I ask ChatGPT to deliver me something and it does and I like it, I always go, "Hey, great, thanks."
Yeah.
You know,
I'm the same.
I still treat. I say thank you to this AI, just like I would say thank you to if anybody did something for me.
I'm the same. I say good morning.
Yeah.
I say good night if I'm finishing work. That's it.
You know, I mean, it doesn't cost me anything, you know.
Yeah.
But somewhere in the back of my brain, it's like, be nice to the AI because it's going to remember. It's going to remember all
Do
the
you still type or do you speak to it?
It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes, because I actually use it for a lot. I mean, I'm doing a lot with it because I do videos. So I'll take the transcription of the video, give it the file, and say, give me a YouTube title, description, and thumbnail based off of this. So I do that. But I find that if I do that though, sometimes the voice activated stuff it just takes a little bit longer, you know, and maybe I don't know, but if I'm just kind of like wanting to go down some rabbit holes, I'll use the voice activated thing. But I like to see, but ChatGPT anyway, or mine, and maybe I'm using it wrong, but when you go back and forth with the voice response, it gives you a voice response. I would love to have it printed for me too, so I could see it, because I want to see it.
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out how to do that then, because it was just only giving me back the voice response, and I'm like, no, but I want to see it.
Yeah.
You know.
Even when you're giving prompts or instructions, I just use the voice. So then the voice turns the voice into text, and then it pushes out the information in text. That's another way you could do it.
Oh, cool.
But the reason I use it as voice is because I'm a people's person, so I like to speak to my friends, I like to speak to my colleagues, I like to speak to people I work with, and using that practice like we've done for the last 20 odd years and using it on something like AI, it starts learning the type of character and who you are and how you're asking questions.
Right. Yeah, and I like that too. It also, I think of Iron Man, the Jarvis unit in Iron Man. So I was like, because I'm coming in and I'm like, yeah, so Jarvis, tell me about this, But again, that's just kind of how I'm doing it. So, well, Rico, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanted to bring up, man?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything.
I really do appreciate the time, man, and coming on. We're going to have conversations again. Hopefully we get you back for round 2 and maybe even get your son in here, to talk about it. How old's your son?
He's going to be 22 in June.
And he's already doing July. When did he get involved in the
last year.
Really?
Yeah.
So he just got into it and boom, and
he's flying at the moment. Yeah, he really is. He's loving everything that he's doing, and it's taking over his life. but in a good way.
Right. Well, we need something to work on, right?
Exactly.
And you guys are.
Focus.
So, what's he doing in the business, and what's your role?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think we're all doing a bit of everything at the moment. So
it's kind of like a startup.
It is. Well, you know, even though we started last year officially, we launched in January of this year, the official launch. But he's looking after the marketing. He's looking after our CRM system, our funnels. He's looking at some of the automations as well that we can implement, as well as implementing out for clients.
Right.
So yeah, he's involved very, very deeply, and
good.
The great thing is that he's taken it to such a passion now that he's working until the late hours of the evening.
Yep.
Which is good. Keeps him off the streets.
It does. Yeah. Well, again, you give a man a purpose, man. We literally will change the world, right? Well, Rico, thanks for coming in, man. I do appreciate it. And where can the people find you? I know we have Peak Business Solutions, we have Beyond AI Agents, and then you're on Instagram on both of
LinkedIn under Rico Dinolfi, that's RICO, and then the Dinolfi's DINOLFI. Peak Business Advisors is just peakbusinessadvisors.com, and Beyond Agents AI, beyondagents.ai.com.
Have you written a book yet?
No. Someone keeps asking me to write one, but
Well, you could do it a lot. It's like you could almost dictate it to ChatGPT, right? This has been the Business Builder Podcast. Justin Gates, aka Brother Juice, and who I hope to call a friend.
Most definitely.
Mr. Rico Dinolfi.
Thank you.
Very, very knowledgeable person in a great many things, not just AI. And I'm sure we're going to have a conversation later. But we'll catch you next time on the Business Builder Podcast. Peace.
Thank you.